Yesterday, Cricket West Indies released the names of the individuals that are in two of their squads. This was the women under 19 team preparing for the Cricket World Cup will be touring England, and those players' names were announced yesterday. Also announcing yesterday were the name of the players in the West Indies T20 squad to play South Africa in their three-match T20 international series in Trinidad and Tobago at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. There were a few surprises in this squad, of course, and I've invited Basil Butcher, who is the son of the former West Indies batsman Basil Butcher Sr., to help me to analyze and react to this squad that was named yesterday by Cricket West Indies. Good morning, Basil. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Carlton. Good morning to your viewers.
Yes, thank you very much, Basil. And I welcome you all to the chat. I appreciate you joining me here, the Caribbean #1 cricketing show. After the squad was released yesterday, the quote on the screen is attributed to the director of cricket for West Indies. He said Andre Russell requested a period of rest and recovery, as well as Jason Holder. We made the determination to continue Alzarri Joseph on his period of rest. In addition, Brandon King remains in rehabilitation. Basil, how do you react to this statement from the director of cricket for West Indies?
Well, firstly, the part with Andre Russell is a little bit confusing for the reason we heard Andre Russell say that this past World Cup would be the last World Cup that he would play. Now, we are now embarking on the process to build the team towards the next World Cup, which would be in 2026, I think, right? So why is Andre Russell still in the mix? Right, that's the first one. The other part, when he says we made the determination to continue Alzarri Joseph on his period of rest, who is the we, and what goes into making that determination, right? I think some of these things need to be revealed. I don't think you can just say we. Who are all the consult? Is there medical people, etc., in part of this process? And Brandon King remains in rehab. No, we have never been told what was the extent of Brandon King's injury. All of us speculated it's some kind of abdominal strain, etc., etc. Now, he suffered that in June, right? And usually abdominal strains take a long while to rehab. But we have never been told what was the extent of his injury.
Basil, since Desmond Haynes stepped down as lead selector, and I think it started happening before he even stepped down, the last time that Cricket West Indies had a press conference after naming their squad, this clearly was a policy of Jimmy Adams that after every squad name, there should be a press conference so that the selection can be explained to the people of the Caribbean and supporters of West Indies cricket. We have seen 2 women team named. We have seen this is the 3rd senior men team that is being named, and there have been absolutely no press conference so that the media can interrogate those selections that happen. What is really happening, and how do you react to this, Basil?
Yeah, I'm with you. I know when Shallow came into, not Shallow, Skerrett came into presidency, that became the normal procedure. There will be more access to the press of West Indies personnel, particularly the selection of teams. We saw all these press conferences. It continued from under Shallow, But as you stated, and with the departure of Jimmy Adams, we have yet to see a press conference other than the press conference for the World Cup, the World Cup naming of the World Cup team. But since then, we have not seen any press conferences. There was none for the team that was picked to go to England. There was none, as you stated, with the women's teams. The one that went to Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Now we have a under 19 women's team in the UK right now. We received a press release. There was no discussion about that team selection. One of the questions I would like to know, who picked that team, right? And the rationale for this, as you said, being able to interrogate the selectors as to, or the lead selector as to what was the rationale for selecting some of the players, because I watch a couple of the women's under 19 games in the tournament, and I am not going to call name, but I see a particular player on the West Indies team that have familial connections in the hierarchy of cricket in that side, and I watched her play, and I don't see how she's on that team.
Okay, thank you very much, Basil. And I want to ask you more about the comment that said that we made the determination, and although we don't know the we, and there's a big discussion whether Alzarri Joseph has been dropped or he has been rested. And what is your view? Has he been dropped, or they are using this rest to avoid any backlash, any argument, or so on? Is this a mild way to leave him out of the team, Basil?
Well, I mean, some could look at it like that. I know I have a friend who is a former player from the Leewards, and he's originally from Antigua, that stated that when people were speculating that whether Alzarri was dropped, he said, no. He spoke to people that are close to the situation there in Antigua, and it was a mutual agreement between Alzarri and the West Indies board. Well, now it's moved from mutual to, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we saw some wranglings in the press as to it was a mutual decision between, the coach and Alzarri. But now this mutual is now changed to, we made a determination to continue Alzarri in this period of rest. Now, one of the things we have to be careful with in terms of Alzarri, if you noted, whenever Alzarri has gotten, well, I shouldn't say Alzarri only, but others, when you give a guy like that extended rest, that rhythm, because he's a rhythm bowler, right? You have to be very, very, very
meticulous
on
yes.
How you're resting these guys. Too long a rest is not a good thing, And I think 3 T20 games, he would if he played, he would play them bowling a maximum of 4 overs. And also, if you chose to, you could have left him out of the you could have not played him in all the games, so because the CPL is coming up, obviously he's going to play a whole lot in there.
Okay, thank you. Let's now look at what Daren Sammy has to say in that press release. Facing a strong South African side is an excellent opportunity for our team to reset and refocus with our game plan. We have played them recently and had mixed results. So this should be an exciting and important series. I am confident in the squad we have selected, and with eyes already on the next T20 Cricket World Cup in 2026. I know the guys will be keen to show their hunger for success. What do you make of that comment from Daren Sammy, Basil?
Carlton, the first part about the strong South Africa side. I don't know if that's a strong South Africa side, because South Africa are doing what we would expect us to be doing. they are having an eye towards the 2026 World Cup, right? Because you don't see David Miller in the team. You don't see Class in the team. You don't see the fast bowler Rabat in the team. You don't see what's the tall boy name again? I can't click in his name.
Narke and Janssen.
Janssen nor Narkia. You don't see none of those guys in the team. So what do you mean about a strong South African team? You don't is Shamsi in the team? I can't remember.
No, I don't see Shamsi there either.
Right, exactly. You don't see Maharaj in the team neither, right? So what are you telling us that a strong South Africa team? South Africa is doing exactly what we should be doing. Why are so and the part there with an eye to the 2026. Well, what is Charles doing in the team then? If you have an eye to 2026.
And so we're going to come to that squad now, Basil. Let us look at that squad now. So this is the West Indies squad that was announced, the 15-man squad. And I'm just going to read out the name of those, and then I'm going to ask you something specifically about the 15-man squad instead of a 13-man squad. Rovman, Powell, Chase, Athanaze, Allen, that's Fabian Allen, Alick Athanaze, Johnson Charles, Matthew Forde, Shimron Hetmyer, Shai Hope, Akeal Hosein, Shamar Joseph, Obed McCoy, Gudakesh Motie, Nicholas Pooran, Rutherford, and Shepherd. Basil, that's the squad, Basil. We're going to go in detail more a little later on, but I want to ask you, and I've made this point on a number of occasions. If we were playing against Australia would probably have named a 12-man squad. India would have done the same. England would have done the same. We even see it for the test matches. These countries, they have more money than Cricket West Indies. Cricket West Indies is always crying about money, right? These countries have more money. But if it was a home series, the maximum number of players they would have named in their squad is 13, probably 12. Why is it that Cricket West Indies going ahead and naming a 15-man squad for a 3-match series in the exact same location when it is a home series? Do you understand the rationale of incurring the expense of the other two players?
I think the only rationale would be this, because in the past, West Indies would not have 15 men walking around the Caribbean in a squad in the past. But because of the challenges these days of traveling within the Caribbean, that is probably the rationale why they would name a squad to have the players on site. Because
before you continue, Basil, I take that point, but all 3 matches will be playing in the country where the Caribbean airline hub. So the furthest flight away from Trinidad is Jamaica, which is probably 2.5 hours. So
Well, what you're saying makes sense. But do Caribbean Airlines fly to all the various islands? That's all I'm asking on a regular, where let's say a guy get injured and you needed this player tomorrow. Could this guy get a flight from one of the other islands that maybe Caribbean Airlines don't fly daily? That's all I'm saying. I think the main reason is simply because of the logistical issues with traveling around the Caribbean today. I think that's the only reason. I think if it was in the past where we had Liat, I don't think they will have 15 people, because then that would be an extra cost.
Yeah, but you have Inter-Caribbean Airline, and then you have the other airline named something another 2020. But those 2 airlines are operating in the Caribbean. All right, let's move away from that and go to the squad. So that's the squad that was selected. When I look at that squad, Basil, I think that anywhere between 85 and 95% of the persons who supported West Indies cricket or follow cricket worldwide would agree that this 7, Rovman Powell, Roston Chase, Shai Hope, Akeal Hosein, Gudakesh Motie, Nicholas Pooran, and Sherfane Rutherford was always going to be in the team. Do you agree with that? Those 7 were always going to be in the squad?
I also would have expected Shepherd too. I would add Shepherd to that list.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
that's why I said that majority would
Yeah.
believe in these 7. So I know that persons will have, some person would have Shepherd, some would have Hetmyer and so on, but I'm saying that
No,
the vast majority.
I would have
Yes?
had Shepherd, not Hetmyer.
Okay, yes. But you agree that the vast majority are secured on this 7?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you. All right, so now these next 5. Matthew Forde, Shimron Hetmyer, Shamar Joseph, Obed McCoy, and Romario Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5 for me are like, you accept these selections, but they do not have a majority of vote. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, and for several reasons, we could go down each name.
Right. But you would say that these
They are not consensus picks.
They are not consensus pick. Is a majority of vote pick. And okay, so I look at those 5, and then I look at these 7, and I'm saying, okay, those 12 or more or less would be accepted whether you agree with the selection or not. Those 12, this 7 and this 5.
Right.
So the 3 now that I'm going to look at now is in alphabetical order so that there's no preference.
Mm-hmm.
Alick Athanaze, he played 1 T20 international, made 6 runs from 7 deliveries. He came not out, by the way. Mm-hmm. In first-class cricket, he has played 14 T20 matches, averaged 26.18, a strike rate of 122. Why do you think Alick Athanaze was selected for the squad?
I think that is based on they think he has something to offer more than based on what they saw in him performance-wise. It is one of those things you're hoping.
Yeah, I saw Alick Athanaze playing I think 2 T20 matches in Guyana. And the gentleman could not get the ball off the square.
That's why I said that. That's why I said that, Carlton. I saw him when he played in the CPL, right? You talk about the CPL, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you couldn't even light up the CPL, or how are you getting promotion to the international team?
So would you have had Alick Athanaze in your T20 squad?
No, I would not.
Okay. Let's look at Fabian Allen now. And very interesting. Fabian Allen have played 37 matches for the West Indies. He have taken 24 wickets. He averages 29.5 with the ball. His economy is less than 8 and a strike rate of 23.7. That means basically he's getting a wicket every match. Mm-hmm. With the bat though, and this is with the bat, he averages 14 with the bat, almost 15, and his strike rate is 135. Now, Basil, would you have Fabian Allen here?
Based on what I saw of Fabian Allen in his last outing, he played against South Africa.
Right.
I'm hard pressed to bring Fabian Allen in the team, primarily because look, we already got 2 left arm spinners in the team, right? So why you adding a third? And what he would bring with the bat, you got people like Hetmyer in the team could serve that purpose. So don't tell me you're picking him to be a fielder, right? Because yes, he's an outstanding fielder. Because you yourself could talk about it. I mean, because we hadn't seen him in action for a while, and we saw him in Jamaica there against South Africa, and you could see that this guy has been missing a lot of cricket. He was very rusty.
Yeah. But in his last 5 matches, yes, Basil, welcome back. In his last 5 matches for the West Indies, he have taken only 1 wicket.
Yes.
His economy has not been bad though, just
No, yeah,
8.18.
just above 8, yeah.
But in those last 5 matches, well, in the last 5 times he batted for the West Indies, he have scored a total of 18 runs in all. That's the last 5 times.
Right.
You know, and you mentioned about the third left arm spinner. When you compare his numbers with those of Akeal Hosein, they are exactly the same. Like when it comes to the average, I think Fabian is 29.5, Hosein is 29.74. When it comes to the economy, Fabian is 7.46, Hosein is 7.42. They are exactly the same. So the question is, Basil, since their record are basically the same, why would you go with Hosein ahead of Fabian Allen? And I'm not here. I would have picked Hosein. I have no doubt.
And I'll tell you why.
I would have picked Hosein. I'm just asking the question.
Yes. No.
Why wouldn't you go with them?
It's easy because again, if you're not looking at the games, you look at the stats. You could be misguided because remember Hosein bowls in the power play, right? And to be bowling in the power play, where the batter's looking to go after you, you only got 2 guys out. To have such a economy rate, which is outstanding to be bowling in the power play, whereas the time where Allen would only bowl, he would bowl in the middle overs where the field is spread and those kinds of things. So you're more likely to bowl, and if he bowls well, he will have a decent economy rate. So that's the main the main thing. The other thing too, Hosein is a guy that usually the captain can throw the ball to if things go in haywire to come and put a clamp down on things because his accuracy and so on. The one thing with Hosein I hope to look at, he was falling in love with that in-swinger ball he was bowling, the new ball he developed in the World Cup. And guys caught up to it, right? So teams are now going into the games looking for that ball, right? So that ball was no longer a surprise to them. So I'll be very interested to see what he comes up with, if he has come up with something to counter that. Because if you notice, as the World Cup progressed, he was no longer successful with that ball as he was earlier in the World Cup.
Yeah, but what an over he bowled in that final over of the eliminator match. What an over it was to bring his team to the Super 5. It was a brilliant over.
Oh yes. Yes. I mean, and again, those are the kind of things that Hosein could do that I don't think Fabian Allen is capable of at this point.
Okay, all right. Basil, the third person that we is Johnson Charles. Johnson Charles have played 57 matches for the West Indies. I think he batted 56 times. There was a match that he didn't bat in. I think it rained out. His average is 23.25 and his strike rate is 131.25. Interestingly, though, he was dropped in the World Cup for that final match against South Africa. His last 5 innings have been 44, 0, 43, 38, and 15. Those are not bad score though Basil. The issue is how long he took to get those runs. Right. And that 44 came off 42 deliveries, just about 107. He faced 5 balls in Trinidad, did not get off the mark before he swung wildly at one and lost the stump. The 43 from 27 deliveries was against Afghanistan in St. Lucia. That was not a bad knock. You want more than that, but you have just done it once in his last 5 matches. And he's now 35. By the 2026 World Cup to come around, he's now 37. Basil, we cannot get the West Indies persons to ask them these questions in an interview because they are clearly hiding. Yes. I have been told that one of the reasons why they were hiding is that they are afraid of me. I don't know how true that is. But why is it that Johnson Charles is in this T20 squad?
I'll tell you, Carlton, that was the biggest surprise when I looked through that team when I saw his name there, because like many other fans, I thought this is where we're looking to build towards the next World Cup, and to retain Johnson Charles and not to have my Mayers in the team is a mystery to me, because it was the same Mayers you dropped Johnson Charles and replaced him with Mayers, and now you pick a team and Mayers, and mind you, in the last couple of matches Mayers has played for the West Indies. Mayers has done a good job. He did a good job when he played in the games against South Africa. All the games he played against recently is against South Africa in the World Cup and in that series leading up to the World Cup. And Mayers did a very good job, in my opinion. And now I would like to understand what is the reason for the non-inclusion of Mayers.
Continue, Basil. I'm trying to work on the camera here.
Yeah, because Mayers, I think Mayers is a really good player that can bat in several areas in the West Indies team. So he brings a versatility from a batting standpoint that is a good thing for T20 cricket, because you always want to have batters in your team that you could, what they call them, the term they use in T20 cricket, but you could slide him down, you could bring him up, and all of those various things that are really important based on situation and circumstances, that you could include a player like Mayers, and also Mayers balls. Mayers can bring if you need an over or two, he could bowl an over or two. So it gives the captain options, and Mayers is a very decent fielder. So all those things added up. How could Charles get in the team ahead of Mayers? I am still confounded with that, and I'm sorry, Sir Carlton.
But Basil, it seems like my camera is not coming back. But let me ask you this: you would not have had Allen in the team, in the squad. You would not have had Athanaze, and you would not have had Charles.
No, well, we also didn't talk about Mr. Carty. Mr. Carty in the team too.
Mr. Carty in the squad? No, man.
No, Carty not in the squad?
No, sure? Carty is not in the squad.
Okay.
Yes, squad.
Carty's name.
That is a squad that has been released.
Okay.
Yes, so who are the three players that you would have replaced these three with? You have listed Myers already. So
yes, Myers is one.
Right.
I would have also included Dominic Drakes. Those are two. So the three players is Charles, Athanaze, and Allen. So Mayers, Drakes. I'm trying. I'd have just left it at 14. I really can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that I could have included in this team for the West Indies when we're talking about with an eye towards the next World Cup.
So therefore, Basil, if you are going to leave it at 14, then which one of the three that you have leave out would you put in to get the 15?
It probably might be Athanaze, because he's a youngster, and they probably want to see if he could bring something to the T20 format. He would have probably be the one.
So you would have included Athanaze then?
Yeah. Okay. Because in Allen, we already got two like Allen already in the team. We ain't need the next one.
Okay. Basil, there's a lot of comments in the comment section now. I'm going to ask you to react to these comments, and okay. Because as usual, persons will have their say.
Yes.
Ramas is saying that seems like Cedarbrae and the fans have all given up on Evan Lewis. Not one mention of his name. Otherwise, I think it's a very good squad based on who is available. What are your thoughts on Evan Lewis?
It's ironic that the commenter raises Evan Lewis's name, because in a chat yesterday, I raised that question. What about Evan Lewis? Right? Why didn't we consider him? And again, that would have been a question that you would have been able to pose had there been a press conference. What is the status of Evan Lewis? And if I'm not mistaken, when they had the camp before the series against South Africa in Jamaica, Evan Lewis was part of that camp.
But we are hearing that Evan Lewis is now concentrating on real estate in Trinidad and is grossly overrated. Have you heard anything about that?
No, well, that's something I gotta find out from my friend in Trinidad that knows him. I will have to ask that question. I have to, if that is so, the guy, well, you know, so it is.
Yes. Jay saying that Alzarri has been rested. There's no way we can drop our best bowler. Is he our best bowler, Basil?
No, I would strongly disagree with Jay, because Jay is just talking on pure sentiments. I guess Jay forgot of Alzarri's performances in the World Cup. Although he took wickets, but he was up and down. He, you know, at times in the world, there were times he was really good, and then there are times he was not. The inconsistency. So you can't be the best bowler and have those inconsistencies. And then we saw what happened in England recently again. The inconsistency showed up. It shows up in all the formats that Alzarri plays, and that's something that he needs to put put that on the right track. Because again, let's look at Rabada. Rabada was 2 years ahead of Alzarri. They're in the same generation, but every time we see Rabada play, we expect XYZ, and we usually see it. We don't see these peaks and valleys like we see with Alzarri, and that's what he needs to get right.
Thank you, Basil. And furthermore, also his ICC ratings does not reflect that he's the best bowler in the team. There are bowlers ahead of him in the team.
Yeah, namely Akeal Hosein.
yes, Akeal Hosein. Jamor Smalls is agreeing with you that South Africa is a weak team, and I don't feel any threat at all. Basil,
I will not agree with him on that, right? Because some of these players that are coming to South Africa, some of us here in this part of the world would not have seen, right? And don't judge the book by the cover. I am very interested to see some of these South African guys. As you know, Carlton, after the West Indies team, South Africa is my team after the West Indies team. So I'm always interested in seeing some of the new guys, because I don't look at domestic T20 tournaments and them things. Only CPL is the only one I really get interested in. So I would miss out on seeing the guys, because, for example, Bart Munn, I just heard about him passingly, right? But I hadn't seen him because I don't watch those games. And then when I saw him in the World Cup, I could see why they would have picked him.
Okay. So here we have some Fabian Allen supporters, and by the way, yesterday morning I was talking to Fabian Allen, first coach who coached him at Veer Technical. We had a very long discussion. Fabian Allen just won the Lankan Premier League T20 Tiger. I don't know how to react to that. And Brandon Webb is saying these guys don't believe in context. Context matters. Well, Brian Webb, what I'll say is that please give us the context, and just to say that context matters.
No, he says Allen has been playing cricket. What does that mean?
So please.
So for example, is he intimating that the rest of the guys who got selected were not playing cricket? Because we had a bunch of guys playing in the major league in the US. Then some of them went and played in England in the 100. We had guys playing in the Toronto T20 league. A bunch of guys. So I don't know what this guy's talking about. Allen has been playing cricket. All those guys in the team have been playing cricket.
And that's why I'm saying. But if he's going to say that these guys don't believe in context, which I don't know. Oh, I do not
Yes.
know. And Brian Webb is a supporter of this channel, and I'm welcome. I welcome him here, and I'm glad that he's here. But if he's going to say these guys don't believe in context, number one, I don't know how he comes to that conclusion to know what we believe in. And
Right.
secondly, if he's saying that context matters,
What
then give
context?
us the context.
Exactly. Give us
Give
the
us the
context.
context. Yes, we really
Yeah, because
appreciate that.
we can have an intelligent discussion if
Yeah,
we don't even understand what you're saying.
yes. Dane is saying that it looks like the coaches select their favorite players. Do you believe so, Basil?
Well, somebody would argue Johnson Charles and Matthew Forde. They both play with Sammy's St. Lucia team, right? Sammy seems to have a very soft spot for Matthew Forde. And obviously Johnson Charles, he continues to persist with Johnson Charles. So those are two questions you ask. I'm not a big Matthew Forde fan at all.
Okay, but you definitely think that Brian Johnson Charles is definitely a Sammy's pick, and there's
yes. Both him and Matthew Forde are Sammy picks.
What do you think about Kevin Sinclair? Should Kevin Sinclair have a look in it? I'm hearing rumors that Kevin Sinclair may never play for West Indies again. I don't. It's just rumors. I don't know much weight that those rumors carry.
Really?
But do you think that Kevin Sinclair should have a look into this team?
I am. What I'm wondering, has Sinclair fully recovered from his hairline fracture of his wrist? Right. That's the question, because remember he suffered a hairline fracture there in England, and that was just a couple weeks ago. So I would be hard pressed to think that he's recovered from it, because I would not be surprised that we don't see Sinclair right away in the Guyana team playing at the start of the CPL. I wouldn't be surprised because of that hairline fracture. And the wrist is a very iffy area. When you fracture it there, the wrist don't heal the same way like other bones in that get fractured in the body.
Okay, so Neil Brown is asking why Myers was not selected. That's the same question you asked, but Sharon replied by saying that Kyle Myers is averaging 21 with a 138 strike rate.
No.
What had he done lately?
First thing I would say to Sherwin, when it comes to T20 cricket, don't get caught up in averages. You look more at strike rate. I would also add, I would love for them to also look to post, but they don't do that in the stats. You would have to figure it out yourself. The actual rotation efficiency, strike rotation efficiency. To me, those are the two most important things. The strike rate, strike rotation efficiency, because we know in T20 cricket is a very volatile game. So to get consistency and high averages, is something you don't see frequently. So to say, and then what he did there, he looked at Kyle Myers' career stats. I would like if you could pull up, Sir Carlton, Kyle Myers' last, what you would say, 4 matches or so, or 5 matches. Look at what he did there, and then we can have a discussion. Let's look at career averages.
So Robin Sukoja is saying that, greetings, my brother. I totally agree with you that Johnson Charles should not be in the team. By the way, I am from St. Lucia, so you agree.
All right. We got a guy, it's not Parkinson.
What about this comment from John Douglas saying that Johnson Charles has a crystal ball?
Yeah, well, he probably saying Johnson Charles got a godfather or godmother, right? Like Cinderella with the crystal ball. Yeah, I think, because you remember, Carlton, during the World Cup, there was a hue and cry across the region to drop Johnson Charles, right? So now the World Cup is over. You actually did drop him in the last game we played. and we pick a squad, and there is Johnson Charles still there.
Okay, Basil, is it time that we start bringing along young players that could have had, they could have had Kadeem Allen or Joshua James in the squad? What are your views on those
Oh,
two?
well, no, somebody has given me a name. I would have picked Kadeem Allen in the team.
Okay, please tell us why.
Kadeem Allen is a big hitter, and he could bowl.
Yeah.
And if you remember, we took him to what the place name, Nepal. He was in that squad.
So,
right?
so you'd be very keen to have.
Yeah, because again, we're looking towards 2026. Look, South Africa bringing young oh gosh, I don't want to mess up the guy pronouncing.
Yeah,
the under 19 left arm fast bowler.
You're right.
They're bringing him, right? So I don't see why I could see where Kadeem Allen could have been in this squad.
Yeah, yes.
And remember too, Kadeem Allen is an opening bat who could open the batting. So, let's try these guys. Let's see. Let's see what we have. Not we know Johnson Charles. What we wasting time?
Okay, and just to go back to Kyle Myers' numbers, is that the last 5 times Kyle Myers batted, you have scored 11, 34, 32, 36 not out, and 35.
Exactly.
On 3 of those occasions, his strike rate was above 157. And one occasion it was 136. It was only on one occasion that it dropped below 136, and on that occasion it was 102. So Kyle Myers in his last 5 innings have done well for the West Indies.
And that's my point.
Yes, yeah. But Jay's doubling down and saying that Alzarri Joseph is our best fast bowler.
Oh no! He gives a full definition.
And Sherwin is supporting him. Sherwin is saying that cricket is about 2 things: taking wickets and scoring runs. Agree, but also fielding.
That's
Alzarri is our best wicket taker.
Yeah, yes, he probably is when you look at the records. But no. If we look at recent performances in Test cricket, every time this guy, well, not really. I can't say that. In England, he didn't do well. Shamar Joseph, he didn't do it. He got 4 wickets in England. But
right.
in the 2 tests in Australia, he outbowled Alzarri by a mile.
Yes. And the thing about Shamar Joseph, although that is Test cricket, they're gonna say it's Test cricket, and we're talking about T20 cricket here.
Right.
Shamar Joseph have gotten 3 fifers in 6 Test matches.
Exactly.
That is incredible.
Alzarri has one.
As one is in his entire career. But one of the things that I never want to do, though, Basil, is to try, it's almost like setting up one bowler against each other. I don't really like it. So I don't want to get into this conversation of, because they're all West Indies bowlers. I don't want to go down.
I think what you, I look at it this way, is that it should be a healthy competition.
Right.
And as West Indies fans, over all the years, even in the halcyon days, like I give you an example. When Lawrence Rowe and Alvin Kadichan came into the team just around the same time, you had those who were the Lawrence Rowe camp, and you had those who were the Alvin Kadichan camp, right? But we all supported West Indies. But you think your boy was better than this, and you'd have the banter and so on. And so it should be and could be. But at the end of the day, we are West Indies fan, but we argue, we think we buy better. But at the end of the day, they're doing good for our team. That's all we're concerned about.
Yes. And my issue is that as long as you promote a player, you do not have to tear down another player to promote your favorite player. And
I agree. I agree. I mean, they used to have the similar thing. You had people in the 60s, Kanai and Sobers, you know. I know some guys, old timers who are no longer with the living, that played with Kanai and played against Sobers, and you could never tell him that Sobers is a better batsman than Kanai. Because when we would have the arguments in the park, he always was a Kanai man. But despite that, and what would be in the banter, as you said, Sir Carton, it would be each side amplifying the virtues of their player and not tearing down the other player.
Thank you, Basil. Wesley McPherson, how do you react to such a comment? Do you think that, I do not, to be honest, I would have preferred not to have this comment, but he's saying that Hetmyer should decline. Sammy and Powell is just using him as a water boy.
Yeah. I mean, he is one of these West Indian fans that is more a Hetmyer apologist rather than looking at this thing objectively, right? Here, Hetmyer has put himself in the position he's in. Nobody else is to blame but Hetmyer. Don't blame Powell. Don't blame Sammy, right? Hetmyer has allowed himself to not be the player that many thought that he could be. Because, look, Hetmyer went to the 100. What did he do in the 100?
Average 18 at a strike rate of, I think, 110 or 11.
Right. I saw several of the games he played, and he didn't do anything, right? So who's to blame for that? It's Hetmyer and his performances. His last IPL, he was subpar to say the least, right? And many of us were surprised that he was selected in the World Cup squad, because if you remember, he was dropped from the West Indies team, right? And that's how Mr. Charles got into the squad. You remember? And then when we picked our team to go to Australia following that series against England, he was not included. So now those who are Hetmyer, big Hetmyer fans, were of the opinion, once he tears up in the IPL, he's in the side. He didn't do that in the IPL, yet he got into the side. And now this guy complaining. He should be thanking heavens that Hetmyer is in the squad with a chance to play, rather than making such a comical statement, in my view.
Basil, and I support your point, and I think Wesley McPherson not quite getting it. As you say, he said he's such a Hetmyer loyalist that he does not understand the significance of Hetmyer in the West Indies squad. Or if you really love Hetmyer, whether it's a water boy on the West Indies squad or not, you want him there, because if he's not in the squad, what he's going to get at the IPL at the mega auction this year, because he will not be retained. We know that the team is not going to retain him, and he will be in the auction.
Yes.
And being a part of the West Indies squad, whether he's playing or not, is going to enhance his ability to get a good payday. Get a good payday at the IPL. Yeah, so I don't think that McPherson understands the bigger picture there. Not at all. He doesn't. And Bobby, Basil, this team, based on the CPL last year, I'm just paraphrasing Neil Brown here. Based on the CPL last year, if you're picking at all CPL 11 from performances last year, just broadly, do you think that this is the same 11, that the same squad you would have picked?
You know, I can't really answer that, because I haven't looked at the CPL figures recently from last year that I could give a really intelligent answer to that. Yes. I will have to look at that. I don't want to be telling tales, so I would do shoulder and arms to that one, Carlton.
Yes. Basil, many persons have talked about what needs to be done to develop West Indies batsmen. I have talked about it at length. I have my own way I think that it should be go about. And I would have said it here many, many times. Here is Tyrell asking, what can be done to develop West Indies batsmen? What in your view need to be done, Basil?
I think one of the things from the early stages of their development, I think batters, all our players, we need to start them with one of the things we have to add in coaches have to add is the tactical acumen. So our players are learning their own games and understanding how they have to add. And coaches have to make sure a player is well-rounded. So you make sure the player you're able to go through all the various shots and put them in context as a development of the player. Now, at the higher level in terms of regional, I think maybe you spoke about this too. I think, you often hear the thing that West Indies, back in the halcyon days, how our players went to England and continued the development and so on. Well, I think we got to take the route, the similar route, except bring the players here. And in our first class teams, I think we got to go out there and recruit bowlers from around the world to come and play in our first class teams. Maybe guys who just finished playing and still are very competitive, or those kind of players to come and play, so our batters can be challenged at the first class level, because I will argue they're not really challenged at the first class level. I often recall last first class season, Guyana was playing Barbados. Guyana was cruising, and that was a game Holden and Roach played. Guyana was cruising, and then Barbados got the second new ball. And then Roach and Holder, being test players, understand how to bowl and pressure in the test in test cricket, put on a spell of bowling that was reminiscent of that, and the Guyanese batters struggled. Before you could say the word knife, 3 wickets fell, right? And I was looking at that was my first inclination. I said, these guys now, for the first time, they're getting the pressure of test match caliber bowling, and they folded like cheap tents. And they need to see more of that. So when they get to the next level, they have a resource upon which they can fall back on as to handling such kind of bowling.
Yes, Sherwin, Daren Sammy has the final call. If Daren Sammy doesn't want you in the 15, you cannot be there. He's the final judge, Sherwin. So,
but Carlton, there is a new selection policy that's not fully implemented, right? Which would be the head coach, based on listening to what the president of the board said on a radio program I heard, that the lead selector will be the head coach, supported by scouts. So what does that say? The selector is the head coach. And what was said in the press release for the test team, they said Andre Kohli led the selection, right? They didn't want to come out and say that it's Andre Kohli picked the team, but Andre Kohli. But if you read between the lines, as he picked the team, because it said, as the new selection policy has not been implemented, Andre Kohli picked the team. So what do you think happened here with Sammy? Sammy picked the team, so I don't think Sherwin is keeping up with the new abreast with what's going on in West Indies cricket at present.
Delroy Morris is saying that personally he's a Jamaican and he support the team in its entirety, but he don't think that Powell is contributing to this team. He does not make enough runs. How do you react to that?
Well, I'll tell you this, Carlton. I told my Hetmyer fans who were scrambling for Hetmyer to get into the team during the World Cup, I said to them, the only place Hetmyer could have got into this team was the position that Rodman Powell was holding. And because Rodman Powell is the captain, Hetmyer could not get to play. Had he not been the captain, Hetmyer would have played, because Rodman Powell did not contribute. Contribution was minuscule, to say the least. So they would have given Hetmyer a play if he was just a regular player. So I support Delroy's position.
Sherwin, just to inform you that those 5 innings, 2 were against India in India and 3 was against and 3 was against South Africa. Those 5 innings. Thank you. And 1 was in the World Cup.
Exactly.
1 was in the World Cup also against South
Yes.
Africa. I think he's referring to Myers' 5 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Clive Samuels, who I think is a Jamaican and is someone that I know, he's saying that I'm glad they find out full. He's talking about Alzarri Joseph.
Yes.
That he's glad that they dropped Alzarri Joseph. You know, so
here. On this point, we talk about fast bowlers. Carlton, I want to put this on record. I found out that the South Africa Ace Tour is still next year in the spring, right? Sometime I think April, May, right? And these are 3 fast bowlers I am hoping to see featured. Your own OJ Shields, the guy Smith from Guyana, Neil Smith, and Isaiah Thorne. I hope all 3 of them feature in that A team, because I want to see West Indies have a cadre of fast bowlers. I mean fast bowlers, that the Alzarris and so on will not be able to be resting on their laurels, because they will have people nipping at their heels, because all 3 of those gentlemen have good pace.
Okay. Mr. Casanova is saying that Hetmyer will soon be out of the IPL based on these performances. And that's why, Mr. Casanova, I'm saying that Wesley McPherson, he doesn't see the bigger picture. He's so caught up in supporting Hetmyer, you know, that he doesn't see the bigger picture, and he doesn't see the importance of Hetmyer in the West Indies squad, because it is beneficial to him being here. He doesn't, you know, so he doesn't see the bigger picture.
Because look, he didn't perform well in the 100.
Yeah, he didn't perform well in the 100 either, you know.
Right.
And yes, former captain Pollard called for a regional T20 competition. I see that need. All over the world, countries are having their own leagues. Is one we heard of one gonna start next year, May or something like that, Basil?
Yes, the director of cricket stated that it would be like on the 23 or on the 25 tournament or something of the sort, which I agree. I think we got to turn over every rock, and I would go even further. I think in each territory should have a national T20 competition, right? And
one is in Jamaica, and I think one played in Jamaica last year.
Okay, well, if they have such with a club competition and so on, because it is from there we would start to expose more talent across the specific territory, that these guys would be able to get a chance to showcase and know that you have a tournament to get into the regional team to play in this tournament.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say something here. Marcel S is saying that Russell and Hetmyer total 208 runs in total in the 100 and receive 125,000 pounds each in 60 matches.
Yes.
Again, it shows the importance of playing for the West Indies, because if he's not in that West Indies squad, he's not getting that money next year. If he's even selected, if he's even drafted.
Yeah, because you know now what you're saying there reminded me. There was a player, a youngster. Well, he's much younger than me. He was the captain of the US team. He became the captain then later, but at the time he wasn't the captain. And when USA played in the 2004 Champions Trophy, those games were classified as ODIs, because we didn't have ODI status yet, but because we're playing against full member nations, those games are classified as ODIs. And in one of the warm-up games, he made a 145 against Zimbabwe. The Australians were scouting that game, right? And then he was the only batter in the US team that looked the part against both Australia and New Zealand. He was offered as a result on the recommendation of Ricky Ponting and Matthew Hayden to get a contract to play grade cricket in Australia. At the time, it would have been 30,000 US to play. Now, this is in 2004-05 season. 30,000 US to play the season. And the thing he was saying to me, Lennox Kush, who was playing for Guyana, that had played for Guyana, had come into the US team. And he explained Kush would not have gotten the same amount like him simply because he had ODI behind his name. He was an international player. Even though Kush was playing first-class cricket in the West Indies, he was an international player and Kush was not. So what you're saying makes perfect sense. Hetmyer not being in the West Indies team would cause his money to drop because he would not be recognized as an international player.
Yes, thank you very much. Do you think that Carty should be in this T20 squad?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think Carty's style is T20 cricket. Carty got to show me more impetus in the other two versions of the game he plays before I think about this. And even when you see Carty play in the CPL, he don't light up the house.
Okay. Here's this gentleman. Well, this person is DE1988IF. The Australian bowling coach is giving us result. Well, you would say so, definitely, because when the team don't bowl well, you blame the coach. But
exactly.
Now we have seen improvement in the bowling. So yes. So why don't try a batting coach now? What do we have to lose? Well, it's Brathwaite, Brathwaite need a coach who understand the culture of the Caribbean, So you would have to go around that.
Well, we got Jimmy Adams as the coach right now.
Right.
I mean, Jimmy Adams is just like Brathwaite.
Yeah. Brathwaite said that they need someone who understands the culture. So I can understand that. It's going to be difficult. There will be so much conflict of interest. But that's a good point, because to me, Basil, I think Justin Langer would be the ideal coach for the West Indies Test team. What are your thoughts?
I think Langer could be. I mean, he has shown, but you see, this is the issue, Carlton. The issue is the cultural thing to understand, because the Australians have a certain way of how they go about their cricket that sometimes could clash with the way West Indians. We are a little laissez-faire. We're not as intense oftentimes. And Australians got an intensity, and depending on the coach and his understanding. But the guy talking there, he forgot we recently had an Australian coach in Stuart Law.
Basil, as you mentioned that clash of culture, and this is a question that I've been asking, and I really need to know the answer. If, for example, Andre Coley says to one of our batsmen, Mikel Louis, just picking a name. I want you to hit 100 balls in 25 minutes. That means 4 balls every 15 seconds. Not really somebody running up, just some throwdown so it can be done quickly. And I want you to hit 100 balls in 25 minutes. And Louis said to Andre Coley, at 50, I hit a coach, but I can't hit 100, What is the next step forward? What is the procedure forward? Is it that Coley just say, okay, or is there something that can be done to get him to hit the 100 ball? What is the secret with West Indies cricket?
I think the coach now will have to explain to the player, to get the players buy-in as to why he wants him to hit the 100 balls. And so that's what be the next step. I think
But Basil, I cut you there, because if Mikel Louis is not being paid $2,500 a month, I can understand trying to get him to buy in. But I'm not going to be paying you $2,500 a month and then have to try to convince you to do your job.
I hear all what you're saying there, Sir Carlton, but we all know this. I living here in the United States, and even if you don't live here, you follow professional sports here. You often hear, even at the elite level, NBA, etc., where the coaches talk about getting the players to buy in, and these are guys getting paid millions of dollars, right? Getting them to buy in, because if your message is not, the player is not getting your message, regardless if you paid him, you're not going to get the optimal results. So you want to
No,
make
I understand the buying into the philosophy and buying how you want to play. But why do I need to get you to buy in to do a drill?
Well,
It's
let me just
drilling.
say, I see what you're saying there. Now, as a coach, you would have to discuss with the player, this is how we're going to solve this problem. These are the drills you need to do for us to improve this skill, right? So he would understand before you say, and he said, this is the first one we're going to do. You're hitting 25 balls. You're hitting 100 balls in 25 minutes. And then we're going to move to something else. That's what I feel a good coach would do.
Yeah, but what happens if the player decides say he's not doing it? Because we have, Basil, that those things happen in West Indies cricket where players say that they're not doing what the coach told them to do.
Well, here, let me tell you something. He will be shortly off the team. Simple as that.
Okay. Clive Samuel said that Kohli is a very good coach. I believe so too. I think that he's the best West Indies coach around. I give Ryan Griffiths from Guyana and Floyd Reefer. I think those three are good coaches. What are your thoughts?
I think because Kohli, I don't know him. I haven't seen him work, but listen,
I have seen him working, and he's very meticulous, absolutely meticulous.
All right,
My issue is now that is he getting the players to do what he wants them to do?
Well, if that is so, that is excellent, because what I would say, he has come through the ranks. So by coming through the ranks, you understand all the various processes that it goes into developing a player and getting players to get better.
Yeah, okay. The champion, 2,500 a month, is not on a West Indies retainer contract.
No, he's on a Leeward Islands retainer.
He's on a Leeward Islands contract. If he was on a West Indies retainer contract,
it'd be more than
about
that.
6, 7, 8,000 per month.
Yes.
However, he still gets $8,000 to play each one of the test matches. It's a lot of other perks.
Gets a match fee.
Yeah, he gets somewhere around, for each match he played, he probably get about 10,000 in all. With all the perks and everything.
When they went to England, the players sign a tour contract. They get a contract for the tour.
Yes.
Right? So whether they play or not, they still get paid.
they still get paid. So yes. And Basil, I want to thank you. The camera gave out on me, but thank you for being here. Thank all of you for being here. Have a wonderful day. Basil, remind you that you are coming back tomorrow morning for us to look at the Women Premier League CPL that will start on Wednesday. So I look forward to see you again tomorrow morning, Basil, as we go through those three teams. Thank you very much.
Okay then.